Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back here to the full story on WYAB 103.9 as we get into this Monday, January 20th, and the big day has arrived as Donald Trump's second inauguration is set to begin today. And that's what we're going to talk about. Two big things that I want to talk about today is, of course, the inauguration. So, first, we're going to talk about just the schedule of it, so when you can watch it, what the plan for it is, as Washington D.C. is thousands upon thousands upon thousands and tens of thousands, dozens of thousands, whatever you have, or people have descended upon the swamp to show their support for Donald Trump. Of course, the inauguration has been brought inside because of weather issues and how cold and snowy and everything like that it is, but he is holding it there. A lot of people showed up. He had a rally last night at the Capital One Arena where the Washington Capitals play, and we're going to play some highlights from that. There was also an inauguration dinner last night. We have a couple clips from that as well that we're going to play for you about what else he plans to do. So obviously you have going to have the formal part of the inauguration, the actual inauguration itself, but he is planning to have quite a day today. It's going to be a long day for President Trump. I'm sure he's already been up for a few hours at this point, and he has got a huge day, as he would say, right? However he says it, day for him, and not just him, but a huge day for the country, really. As people are looking to get rid of that swamp, as people are looking to um, people are looking to get back to common sense, as I've said before on this show several times. And this is now that opportunity to have to get back that sense of normalcy, that sense of common sense back to the United States. And he mentioned a lot of that in his rally yesterday. So we're going to cover, like I said, the schedule itself, as well as what was said yesterday and all the other plans that he has, because he has had a big, big day planned. He just like he promised. He promised that he would get busy immediately. He wouldn't waste any time as things need to be reversed, and so he has said he would do that. And if you're going to say you're going to do it the day before, you can imagine you are going to do it. The other thing we're going to talk about is how Donald Trump saved TikTok, the social media platform, video hoster, whatever you want to call it, and how Donald Trump saved TikTok. Despite the fact that he's wanting to ban it a few years ago, but he has now come back and saved it himself once he saw that the reaction of young people and how to get that service back out to them as a big part of his reelection. TikTok was, as the media and his news gets spread around in those kind of mediums outside of the traditional media. So he is going out to save that. So we're going to talk about the specifics of that as well here on this show. So it's a big show on a big day here in America, Inauguration Day. All right, so we're going to go ahead and take that first break, and when we get back, we'll get right into those inauguration details. So keep it tuned here to the full story on WYAB 103.9. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back here to the full story on WYAB 103.9. As we get into it, I was trying to get all the videos kind of lined up for us as we get ready to go. I'm playing really a couple different things from the rally and everything else. So President-elect Donald Trump yesterday had a huge rally at the Capital One Arena, where they will also have the parade, as I talked about the parade that was supposed to be outside, the processional. I guess it's really more of a processional if you're in there, or a rally, another rally. I guess Trump loves a good rally. But he held a raucous rally Sunday on the eve of his inauguration to promise swift day one action remarking the federal government shifting federal priorities at breakneck speed and ensuring the curtain closes on 4 long years of American decline. And really, like I said, it's been more than that because we have 12 of 16 years. I always try to mention that to people just to kind of put that in perspective, how long we've been under Democrat control. We had a little bit of a 4-year respite there, but Donald Trump had to fight them the whole way through and had to fight his party sometimes too on that. So really, it's even been longer than those 4 years. Supporters filled nearly all of the, or did fill all of the 20,000 plus seat Capital One Arena in downtown Washington for a Make America Great victory celebration and cheered as Trump said he'd take quick action on everything from cracking down on the U.S.-Mexico border to promoting oil drilling, reining in federal workforce, and eradicating DEI. So all the promises he had talked about during the campaign trail, he has mentioned again. He's mentioning it after he's already been elected. So, and this not only has he already been elected, this will be his last term regardless. So, him mentioning this now should show you, hey, he really is going to do it, right? One thing you can always say about Donald Trump is that he has always been one to do what he says, right? He said he'd build a wall in his first term. He built a wall, right? He said he would. Improve our military situation overseas, and he did. And so everything that Trump says, and I think that angers Democrats even more, is the fact that he does always follow through with what he says, and he doesn't go back on it. He actually follows through. And with that rally yesterday, we found out that he is going to do it, and he's still going to do it. So first thing I'm going to play for you right now is a clip from kind of getting started there, so you can kind of feel the atmosphere.
True American patriots on the eve of taking back our country. That's what we're going to do, take back our country. Tomorrow at noon, the curtain closes on 4 long years of American decline, and we begin a brand new day of American strength and prosperity, dignity and pride. Bringing it all back. Once and for all, we're going to end the reign of a failed and corrupt political establishment in Washington, a failed administration. We're not going to take it anymore. Our incoming administration has achieved all of this in the Middle East in less than 3 months without being president. We've achieved more without being president than they've achieved in 4 years with being president.
And what he was talking about there, obviously, there was a ceasefire deal signed in Israel and Hamas, where Trump's envoy took place there, and they were getting it signed before the inauguration. Of course, we've covered that story in quite a detail here, but I'm also going to be curious to see how that plays out with Israel and them going forward. But I'll continue.
You're going to see something tomorrow. You're going to see executive orders that are going to make you extremely happy. Lots of them. Lots of them. We have to set our country on the proper course. By the time the sun sets tomorrow evening, the invasion of our borders will have come to a halt, and all the illegal border trespassers will in some form or another be on their way back home.
Okay, so as I get out of that, but one of the things there, right? 2 things that you hear about the executive orders and the executive orders and the securing the border. That was obviously something very big that he did in his first presidency was getting the border secured, but also too these executive orders. Obviously, Biden had used his executive order power to essentially reverse everything Donald Trump did, and now Donald Trump's going to reverse a lot of things that he did. So this was Donald Trump here. I'm going to share for you. This was Donald Trump at the his dinner he had last night. They had a ball last night, and about how many executive orders they're actually going to do. So here's him at that dinner.
Hurting a nation faced with crisis at home and abroad, but I will describe in my inaugural address tomorrow. Can you believe it? Tomorrow. It's been a long 4 years. Nasty. It's been a nasty 4 years. My administration will take immediate and decisive action to confront every single problem America faces and put our nation back on the path to success and greatness. Within hours of taking office, I will sign dozens of executive orders, and we will begin the 4 greatest years in the history of our country. We're going to turn it around. We're going to turn it around quick, and we're going to do things that nobody thought even were possible.
So they go over 100 executive orders that he is planning to have signed. He said in his inaugural address that he will make today exactly what orders he will be signing. So obviously, it's going to be exciting to see all of that, to see what he lays out in that inaugural address. Like I said, if you can watch it live, it'd be great. But if not, right, we'll cover it here tomorrow morning. We'll cover all of those highlights as well. But one other thing that I wanted to highlight with Donald Trump's speech yesterday was his regarding the January 6th, all the January 6th people that were prosecuted after January 6th of 2020, and how that's has played out. And how they created laws to prosecute a lot of them, and now he has said. Here's I want to play. If we can get the clip here of what he said he's going to handle those situations. So let's share that.
And tomorrow, everybody in this very large arena will be very happy with my decision on the J6 hostages. Very happy. I think you'll be very, very happy. I would say about 99.9% in this beautiful arena.
So that's it's interesting. He's actually upping the rhetoric now that he's going to be president, and calling them the J6 hostages. Again, obviously in relation to the fact that again these laws were created to they were created and twisted, not created, but twisted to try to convict a lot of these people. Obviously, the Supreme Court threw out some of them. But it was definitely a lot of political persecution against some of them. Now, some of them, like I said, deserve to be in jail if they assaulted people or destruction of property. But then you have to look at the type of punishments, right? Because some of these people just got huge punishments for stuff that, normally wouldn't get nearly as much, right? Like 5-6 years for defacement of property and things like that. So it's absolutely ridiculous, especially when you have all those Antifa and all those other people during the Floyd, whatever his name is, whatever the last guy's name is, George Floyd. Floyd was his last name. George Floyd protests, right? They literally taken over streets. They spray painted Black Lives Matter over the streets in D.C., right? And no one ever got prosecuted for that, right? That doesn't make anything what some of the people did on January 6th right? And that doesn't mean they shouldn't have been prosecuted, or at least some of the things that they did shouldn't have been prosecuted, right? He said, my thing is the very things, right? The assaults and the defacement of property. That was really the only things that should have been prosecuted. But if they were going to be prosecuted, a then they should receive proper punishments. And so, like, you compare it again to the liberal protests. You remember in Seattle, they literally took over a police station, and took over a whole block of the city and called it their own little area, right? Like a police-free zone, even though they themselves had guns. So it's like, well, I don't know exactly what you're doing here, but nothing happened to any of those people, right? But the January 6th people, they got, not only were they prosecuted, but they're excessively prosecuted. And Donald Trump, it's about time that again that those guys, that they got, either get pardoned or get their sentences commuted, if they got excessive sentences. Because some of them, like I said, now have been in prison 2 or 3 years, which is kind of ridiculous for some of the things that they were convicted or pled guilty of. So it's going to be exciting to see that, exactly what his plan is going to be for that, but also there still needs to be a full investigation into some of that into some of how they were able to get in so easily. That was just never done. They just focused all their efforts on those people, right? The shaman and all those guys. They just focused all their efforts on that instead of, hey, how did they get in here so easy? How was it they were just able to just run through this building without any kind of uh, real resistance, so that's the part we also need to, investigate. Because then they said they were just they didn't focus on Nancy Pelosi and how she was running the House, how she was responsible for Congress at the time, and just kind of let it happen. Because that was crazy. Because everybody at the time, if you can remember, was like, hey, how did they get in there so easy? How are they able to do this? How are they able to storm the Capitol like it was nothing? you know. And we never got any answers on that. We never had answers on that. And something to me says there's something fishy about that. And, we've been called conspiracy theorists for a while now. We got the election interference cases back in 2020. And then, some of these things, and now with the political persecutions of Donald Trump, everything that turned out that was used to be conspiracy has turned out to be fact. And I think Trump is also looking to answer some of these questions, not only in recent conspiracies. I say conspiracies because I said a lot of these were not conspiracies, right? Also like COVID. But to get to old conspiracies like JFK and MLK and all these other conspiracies that used to happen. So he's going to be the conspiracy buster, I would say, or the conspiracy confirmer, because if it's not really conspiracy, if it's actually fact, right? So interesting things, like I said, to come from that, as well. But like I said, it's going to be definitely a busy day. Over 100 of those executive orders, other things he has to get. But he's also going to visit Los Angeles this week. We've obviously covered the Los Angeles fires quite a bit here. And he confirmed during the rally that his first trip outside of Washington, D.C. as president will take place at the end of the week to see the damage from the wildfires in Los Angeles. He has obviously been critical of Gavin Newsom. Obviously, we covered on Friday. We covered at length about the L.A. mayor and how she really didn't give a crap about her city. She didn't even show up for a day, and the policies that she had that led to that. But also just to see those, see the devastation. Make sure that federal assistance is getting out there. Obviously, that was another failure of the Biden administration with the hurricanes of last year. That they didn't get proper assistance out to the hurricane victims in the South, in the Appalachian region of the South, I should say. And here, now that Donald Trump he's going to use this opportunity to show that, hey, we know how to deploy FEMA, we know how to deploy federal assistance when needed. They deserve federal assistance as much as failure as their own government's had. And even though those people there voted in a lot of those people, you still get federal assistance like every citizen should, even if you don't deserve it. Even if you've been part of the problem by electing these individuals that have worsened the problem. But at the same time, like I said, they couldn't control when the fires came. However, they definitely can control how much damage was done because of their poor policies. But they still deserve federal assistance, and Donald Trump's going to go down there, see the damage, assess it, and get things done, right? To show that we know how to assist it. He said, "I want to send our love to everyone affected by the terrible wildfires in California. I'm going to go out there on Friday to see it and get it to moving back." Um, so, um, so it's going to be interesting, like I said, especially if they're going to put any conditions on those funds that come to Los Angeles, especially, and I think that should be right, right? You can't just give money to the government down there. I think the money needs to be really specific to the people. Honestly, the government shouldn't get almost anything unless it's, to the fire department and things like that. So you have to have conditions that, hey, this will only go to the fire department, right? This will only go to the National Guard to help with the recovery efforts on that end, right? You'll get federal money for that. Certain conditions like that, I think, are going to be necessary. All right, we're going to take our last break right here. When we get back, I kind of run out of time to talk about TikTok, but we'll talk briefly about what happened with TikTok, and then we will go to this day in history. But keep it tuned to the full story on WYAB 103.9. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back here to the full story on WYAB 103.9 as we continue on. And I wanted to talk briefly about the TikTok ban. Before we do, had a caller call into the break saying the left's gonna be mad that I forgot about George Floyd's name, and so I'm sure I'll get letters for it. But you know what? I don't care about that stuff anymore. We're moving past that, right? We're moving past those dark days. That's the great thing. Hopefully, the only way we remember that guy's name is because of what the criminal he was, and B, that it was a dark time in America that caused us to reevaluate ourselves just a few years later to get back to common sense. That's how we're going to remember George Floyd more than anything. But I want to talk briefly about the TikTok ban. So after a blackout that lasted about 14 hours, TikTok has returned to the U.S. So the hugely popular video app was taken offline Saturday night in compliance with a law that effectively banned the service nationwide unless it splits off from ByteDance, its a Chinese-based owner, or they at least had to have at least 50% U.S. ownership. And last week, the Supreme Court upheld that law. There's no reason not to uphold it because the law itself was legal, had a basis for it. On Saturday, Google and Apple removed the app from their stores, which was a requirement of the ban, which also forbids web hosting companies from providing back-end support to the app. However, Biden officials said they would leave enforcement of the law up to the Trump administration, which, I find that was very interesting. And so essentially web hosting services said, hey, we're just going to shut down to be safe. And then on Sunday morning, President-elect Trump effectively reversed the blackout with a single post to his Truth Social media platform, issued a statement vowing to pause the law and said he would extend a liability shield to tech companies that support TikTok as the app's future is worked out by his incoming administration. Not long after, companies that provide web support, including firms Oracle and Akamai, restored TikTok's website and app for millions of users in the U.S., but it also gave the web providers the assurance they needed to bring TikTok back. according to a person close to TikTok's ongoing discussions with the Trump's transition team. In a post on X on Sunday afternoon, TikTok said, quote, "In agreement with our service providers, TikTok is in the process of restoring service. We thank President Trump for providing the necessary clarity and assurance to our service providers that they will face no penalties providing TikTok to over 170 million Americans and allowing over 7 million small businesses to thrive." So again, it's this is Trump making those move. And Trump also said that he would like to see TikTok become a joint venture with 50% American ownership, which is also again part of the law. The law is still in the books, right? It's just that they're going to pause enforcement of the law until they can work something out. Now, you've already had liberals throw up in arms, say, "Hey, he's violating what Congress said. He's not doing what Congress said." Well, if that was the case, then my thing is how come Biden didn't enforce any of our border laws in the last 4 years, and just refused to do it, refused to just completely ignore our border laws, which I find is funny, is that they're all for that. But as soon as Trump wants to work out something with TikTok, it's, Trump's going to violate Congress. This is him being a fascist. This is exactly what we said was going to happen. It's all of that all over again. But it's just something that's very typical for these people. Okay, so I'm going to get to this day in history as we're running short. But so the big thing with this day in history is the fact of that it has been multiple inaugurations that has happened during this time, and because of that, it is it's a great time to look at two of the past inaugurations that I want to talk about. So both in 20 years apart. So in 1961, we had John F. Kennedy inaugurated as the 35th President of the United States in his famous inaugural speech, which was this right here. And it didn't play. Oh, there it is, because I had a thing on there. Here's his famous speech right here.
Oh, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
So that's very important, right? As we get Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Is going to be a part of the Trump administration. He said he's going to release assassination reports on that. And then in 1981, minutes after Ronald Reagan was sworn in as 40th President of the United States, 52 American hostages were released by Iran after 444 days in captivity. All right, that's all I have for you guys today. We'll see you again tomorrow after the inauguration. Enjoy this inauguration day. But until then, my name is Matthew Bishop, and you've heard the full story.